full in the face and left him gasping. That decided him. He changed direction and headed toward the apartment. Lately, he had taken to spending the really cold days in bed with a murder mystery, and he was beginning to think he should have done that this morning. On Broadway, he stayed close to the buildings, hoping that there would be less wind there. He passed the brass nameplate on one of the concrete walls and, for an instant, saw his face reflected there, made yellow by the brass, with his mouth open and his jaw clenched and his teeth gnashed against the cold. If it had been any other day, he would have smiled and maybe stopped to peer into the brass until the passers-by wondered what he was doing. But not today. Today he only hunched his gray topcoat around him more securely and kept going. His apartment was 5 blocks from campus, in a teeny, dark, old building with unbelievably high, sculptured ceilings. Opening the front door of it took all the strength he had, and all the way up the 3 flights of stairs he could smell what every family had eaten for the last day and a half, mainly bacon and burnt beans, he gathered. Ordinarily, the smells made him feel a little sick, but today they seemed warm and comforting. He climbed more quickly, making each wooden step creak beneath his feet. By the time he was at his own door and digging through his pockets for the keys, he was whistling under his breath, even though his face was stiff with cold. "That you?" his roommate called from the kitchen. "It's me." He took the key out of the door and slammed the door shut behind him. Inside, it was almost as cold as it was in the street. All it needed was the wind. The living room was taller than it was wide, and very dark, with high-backed stuffed furniture and long, narrow windows that rattled when a gust of wind blew. The mantel and the coffee tables were bare and dusty. There were none of the flower pots and photographs and china doodads that he was used to from the house full of women in which he had been raised, but a huge clutter of other objects lay around: newspapers, tossed-off jackets, textbooks, playing cards. In the middle of the dark wooden floor was a square scatter rug, colored like a chessboard, and ridiculously tiny plastic chess pieces sat upon it, in a middle-of-the-game confusion. Benjo stripped his topcoat and his suit jacket off and threw them onto an easy-chair. He untied his tie and stuffed it into the pocket of the jacket. From the daybed he picked up a crazy quilt from home and began swaddling himself in it, covering even his head and huddling himself tightly inside it. "For Pete's sake," his roommate said from the kitchen doorway. "Well, I'm cold." He backed up to the daybed and sat down. The bed was a wide one. He worked himself back until he was leaning against the wall and his legs were folded, Indian fashion, in front of him. And then he frowned. "Forgot to take off my shoes," he said. He patiently undid the quilt and untied his shoes. They fell to the floor with 2 dull thuds. With his cold feet pressed beneath the warmth of his legs, he reached again for the quilt and began pulling it around him. "Hey, Jeremy," he said, "grab this corner, will you?" His roommate left the doorway and came over, carrying a cup of coffee in one hand. "I've never seen the like," he said. "You wait till it's really winter." "Which one?" "The one in my left hand. There. Thanks." He leaned back against the wall again, and Jeremy drifted over to the window, slurping up his coffee as he went. He was younger than Benjo, 21 at the most, and an undergraduate. But Benjo liked him better than most of the other people he had met here. Maybe because he didn't have that sleek look either. He was from Maine and wore sneakers and dungarees and dirty red Brewster jackets to class. His hair was so black it was startling. It gave him a wild look even when he smiled. "I thought you had 2 classes on Thursday," Jeremy said. "I did, but I only went to the one. I got cold." "Oh, pooh." He sat down on the edge of the windowsill and swung one sneaker back and forth. "In Maine," he said, "we'd be swimming in this weather." "In Sand Hill, we'd be sending for federal aid." "Oh, now don't you give me that." He stood up and began tugging at the window.